Hey everybody. I decided to play around with my gel press today, and I got a new one which was about 8 by 10 inches large, and I already had a 5 by 7, so I wanted to kind of just play with them and try them out. Now, I have some ideas for what I'm going to use the prints for. So I'm not just kind of willy nilly, just using paints. Now, this little drop cloth slash drop paper I've had for a while. And you know what? I love looking at it with all the different paints and stuff on it. But uh, let me digress. I put it down to protect my surfaces. Now, whenever you're doing the jelly printing, you really have to kind of prep things ahead of time because there's going to be paint and papers everywhere. So, what you don't see is that I have some spots on my floor and on a shelf where I can just kind of sit papers until they dry so that they won't smear. And I decided to use some paper bag to actually protect my surfaces. Now, the paper bag is actually perfect for this job, and you can see you can easily cut it apart and open it up, and you have plenty of paper to actually put your wet painted pages on. And I also decided that I would use the paper bag as as a page to jelly print on as well. So I actually haven't seen anybody do that, but I'm sure that they have. I found I've been experimenting with different types of papers during this process. And so this is kind of a new experiment for me. Now, some things that I took out were my acrylic paints. I took out some of my mixed media stuff, just a few things, some bubble wrap, some packaging that I got out of like an art kit, and just some stencils. I took out my brayer, and I didn't know if I would be using all of these stencils or not. But I decided that I would just take them out and give it a go and see how it went. Again, you want to be able to put your wet stencils down someplace while you're doing some other techniques. Because, I tried when I first got my little 5 by 7 y'all. I tried like cleaning up, kind of keeping things clean after every print, and it was a fiasco. You really just have to just go for it and then worry about the cleanup after you get done. So I was gonna put my gel print. Well, I did put my gel print, my gel press, down on this paper, and I kind of knew it was going to pick up some of those old bits that was on that paper. So what I did was I got out some cutting mats because I always keep some of these really cheapo depot cutting mats that I got from the dollar store. They actually get two of them for $1, so they're 50 cents a piece. And these were perfect for this job. Now, I wanted to use both of my gel presses. So again, one of them was 8 by 10, that's the brand new one. And then the other one is 5 by 7. And I really didn't worry about the little bits and pieces that were on those paper, those presses already, because I just felt like whatever it is, when I put the paper down, it would add some character to the actual pages. So now, as I am doing this, I'm kind of watching some videos to give me some motivation and inspiration to do these because, y'all, I am like a serious amateur at the gel press, but I love the fact that I can use my paints because I don't use them enough. And I do like art journaling and mixed media. And so I decided this would just be fantastic because you can kind of just knock a whole bunch of pages out in one time. Now, this was an amateur move for me as well. I put down my stencil, but I tried to just kind of just gently press it down so that it would make an imprint. And then the amateur move is that I put paint on top of it while it was still really wet, and I put a lot of paint down. And I think I pressed too hard when I actually rolled it out, and I kind of rolled out that pattern, because once I got done with this, and you'll see all the patterns once I'm done, yeah, I rolled it out. And then I decided to do another pattern on here. And again, this time I decided to use the roller for it, which probably made the first bit disappear quite quickly. And I wanted to cover like the whole page too. But I will say, once the page got done, it still looked quite beautiful. So this is one of those things, just like junk journaling. You can't really mess it up, people. You can't mess it up. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So then I used some white on here. So I just did like a whole bunch of mixing. And like I said, I think I pressed too hard and I just kind of worked the paint too much. But it did come out with some beautiful colors. Just, looking at it from this point of view, it really looked quite beautiful. So then I just took a regular sheet of paper, and then for the small press, since it's only a 5x7, I decided to just, chop that paper in half. Well, I ripped it, not quite chopped. And that's what it looked like. You can see there's no pattern on there. And I know that went quite quickly, but I will show you at the end how all the patterns look. So in the interest of time, we're just going to keep it rolling. So what I decided to try to do is to kind of use colors that were in the same family. Excuse me. I tried to use colors that were in the same family. And so, like I have green here, I tried to use another type of green. And I will also say that probably less is more. I put quite a bit of paint on here, but I think it still turned out okay. I don't think I put as much as I think I did. And again, I tried to use the stencil and I just kind of rolled over it. And I like the effect that the stencil has. And this is a stencil I have up in the shop. I only have a few of these stencils left though, because I've been having some problems cutting this, but I think I'm going to try to cut it on a different material. Excuse me again. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my voice, but I didn't want to stop the video and restart. So I hope y'all forgive me. So in this case, also that stencil, I think this particular one was made out of a really heavy cardstock, and I may do some more stencils in that material because I really like it. You can't really clean it like you can like stencil blanks, but like I said, in order to have that stencil, I would have to do it on a different material. But that's neither here nor there. I know you don't care about that. But I love the way the print came out on here. And I guess you are also wondering, why am I using 2 gel presses? Well, I figured since I have the paints out, I might as well do a twofer, a 2-for-1. And what I should have done, which is another amateur move, is to put the paint on one, roll it out on that one, and then roll it on the other one instead of putting paint on both sides. So I probably still use more paint than I needed, but I don't think I wasted any of it. So what you don't see on the right hand side is I have what I would call like some mop-up pages. So once I actually roll these out, then I roll my roller on a page, a wipe sheet, and till I get all of the paint off of the brayer. And I found that worked out really well because, again, when I first started doing this, I actually would try to wash off the roller. And y'all, again, that was kind of a bit of a fiasco. Now, as you can see, I'm putting the stencil on backwards because once you put the paper on, you're going to kind of get the inverse of that stencil. And I like the color selections that I had. In this case, I used a purple and a pink. Now, what you could do if you're not too good at mixing the colors, because I can make mud real quick. But I do have a color wheel that's handy next to me. And I didn't really have to use it in this instance, but I kind of know which colors kind of make mud. So I try to avoid putting those two colors onto the gel press at the same time. And that really worked out for me. So I'm getting better at colors. I haven't taken any art classes. I haven't had any formal instruction. I haven't even went to any of those, those classes that you go to at night and you drink some wine and you just kind of socialize with people. I haven't even been to any of those, but I think for the next year that might be something I may look into, is to do maybe like some after hours type of fun. Now, in this case, you can actually see the stencils, which is quite nice. So, yeah, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm like thinking, okay, what can I do next? What can I do next? I'm thinking about the colors. And I'm getting lots of paint on my hands too, but I was like, you know what? I don't care. These are acrylic paints, so they don't really mess your nails up. So I can paint away and get lots of lovely goodness and bits and pieces on my hands, and it's all good. So in this case, I use kind of a limey kind of green. I know I'm not telling you the exact colors, but and a teal color. And y'all, I love that combination. I didn't know how they would work together because the teal is kind of on the precipice of green and on the precipice of blue. But I found that they worked really well together. And since the stencils, I felt like what I needed to do was do like backgrounds and then maybe later after these dry, then maybe do stencils. Now, this was a piece of packaging that I got out of another art kit, and I decided to keep it, and I love the pattern that it made in here. And so, of course, when you put your white paper down on it, what shows through is the white where, it kind of lifted the paint up, where that piece that I was using lifted the paint up. And I made sure to rub things very, very well. And also, an amateur move that I did was to not pull the paper up right away. And sometimes the paint dried up under there because this is like a very thin layer of paint. So it doesn't take long for things to start drying. Y'all look at those prints. Those prints were so beautiful. And you can see I still had like some bits of paint on the gel press itself, which was okay. So now I'm just thinking about my next color, and I'm rolling off that color onto my mop-up page. And I'll be using the mop-up pages as well. So some things that I thought about doing, which I haven't tried yet, is I can make some journal cards with these, or some ATCs, which is art trading cards, I can do with these as well. Or I'm thinking more along the lines of making journal pages with these and do it kind of like an art journal. And that would be quite fun as well. Now, y'all, I'm putting on way too much paint on this one. I do like this yellow, though. It's like so bright and vibrant. I'm enjoying it. Now, as you can see, I have mostly just basic colors. I don't have any fancy smancy paints or anything. That's one reason why I started the Patreon channel, is so that, I could still share everything here and then be able to purchase some additional supplies, whether they be art supplies or junk journaling supplies or planning supplies, and just be able to just share until my heart is content. So here I'm just using some packaging again and putting some circles on here. And y'all love how the circles are so uniform. If I try to do the circles, they'll be a little bit crazy, but they probably would look very good in this venue of art journaling. So now you'll have to wait for it because I don't know what's taking me so long. Oh, I was tearing the paper. That's what it was. So I got my paper down and I'm giving it a really good rub, because I found that If I rub it in really, really good, I can get most of the paint up, which I've seen other people do. And I'm like, why is it taking them so long to like rub everything out? And that's why. And as you can see, it still left some yellow bits on there, but don't worry about that. The little bits that you leave on to the press itself actually are is going to be very nice on the next print. So because they're already drying even as we speak. So I'm going to just roll off the rest of this yellow, and um I wish that I could show you like my whole desk, but my camera just doesn't go up high enough. So I thought maybe you would rather see me use the gel press than to rolling off the extra, but you'll get to see the sheets for those as well. So now I decided to use some red, even though there's a spot of yellow on here. I decided to use some red. And I don't know if I mentioned, but these are like some cheapo depot paints, so you don't need anything fancy for this. And these are Craft Smart paints that I'm using, and I've had them for quite a while. The only thing that I figured out is that you need to shake your paint up before you use it, because if you haven't used it for a while, it kind of separates. So whatever they make it with, I don't know. And I probably don't really care. I just know that it separates and you need to shake it so you can, I guess, just like any paint. So you'll have like, the right, you know, texture when it goes on. Y'all, now, even at this point, I love this. This is red and pink that I put together. So you just have to kind of experiment with your colors. And I kind of just dotted things on. And then I took like this cake spatula, because it has some ridges on it. And I decided to make some patterns on here. And, not taking it too serious, not worrying about how uniform it was. And I really like the pattern that it made. So, of course, again, wherever you see the blank spots, whatever color paper you use, that's what you will see behind it. So, I think probably next time I want to try to use some black paper and some other color paper that I have that I don't use that much. And I think that will be quite wonderful. I was even thinking of maybe using some cardstock, maybe some cardstock that I don't like so much, and trying to do some gel printing on there. So as I'm doing this, as I'm talking, like there's just a ton of things that I'm just thinking you can make. You can make some tags with these. I have tried doing some die cuts. You all saw that video where I did some die cuts, and I love how those came out. So I'll be doing more of those as well. So right now I am just enjoying doing the gel prints. Now, when I play with the die cuts, I actually did that video before this one. So I already had those from my smaller 5x7 prints. But I really wanted the bigger plate. So I would suggest, if you are considering buying the gel presses and you don't have one, to get the largest one first. And they do have a 12x12 press. And now I'm thinking maybe instead of the 8x10, I should have got the 12x12. So maybe in the future, I'll get a bigger one. But I think the 8x10 is going to work very well for me. I also like the 5x7 too. I like having the different ones. I think there's also circles as well. So you can have a circle die cut. So that's pretty cool. Y'all, this is definitely like a TV time activity. I sat in front of my computer while I was doing these, and I chit-chatted with a friend on, you know, over the internet, and I also watched some YouTube videos while I was doing this. And the whole process took me about an hour to do. So I'm using my mop-up page. I was thinking it's a lot of paint left on here, and I wanted to get it up. But then I decided, let me just move on to the next colors. And I had decided that I was only going to spend an hour doing this, because this is a very addictive process, and you could possibly use up every little piece of paper that you have in the house. I was even thinking you could use paper that has writing on the back, like maybe newspaper. I don't know. I don't know how newspaper will work because the ink on the newspaper is it will run when it's wet. So that would be something interesting to try out for sure. So this time I decided to use 3 colors for this one. And I used brown, and I used that bright yellow and bright red. And y'all, let me tell you, I could blow this up and put it on a canvas and put it on the wall. But then what happened was, here's a rookie move. I cleaned my brayer and I noticed that the corner of my 8x10 was missing, and so missing a little bit of paint. So I said, let me try to put some more paint on it. Well, after you clean your brayer, this does not work. What happens is you just lift paint off. So I kind of left it alone at that point and just went ahead and put the papers down for the lift off, basically. So it didn't mess it up too bad, but it was like perfect before I did that. So that was a rookie move. So I guess I should name this video tips for gel printing. Some beginner tips for gel printing, because I'm learning as I go and I'm sharing with you. So maybe you won't make those mistakes, but sometimes those mistakes are all right. It's all right to make mistakes in this case, because all we're doing is playing and creating and having fun. So now I'm just trying to think of what's the next colors I'm going to use. Sometimes it takes me a while to think because y'all know I sped this up. So I decided to use a large stencil this time, but I didn't quite know how to get the color on here. And so what I did was I put some paint on some paper and rookie move again. And then I put it on the brayer, and I just didn't have enough paint. And I was like, ugh, that's not going to work for me. So then I just put some paint right onto the stencil itself. And y'all, that worked. That worked out really well. Look at all that red. Now, I will say that, cleaning the stencils is not that hard to do. But again, I didn't clean the stencils right after I did this. But you can always soak your stencils. I mean, this is just acrylic paint. It'll come off. It will come off even after it's dried. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, I love these red arrows. They came out like absolutely beautiful. So I was trying to get some of that red paint off of the stencil only because I didn't really have a good spot to put it on where it wouldn't like just contaminate everything and its wake. So I did try to wipe it off just a tad bit, but I wasn't really that serious. I wasn't all that serious about cleaning that stencil off. So then I was thinking, okay, should I use a white piece of paper or one of the papers I did? So I took the blue one, which was absolutely beautiful. And of course, this was an experiment. And I put that down and I used my brayer to just make sure it's going to lift up everything. And dun, 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 y'all, look at that. Look at that. That came out beautiful. So I got the coordinating small 5x7 piece. Oh, actually, I used the yellow for this. And I put it down on the other side. But the thing is, remember, that was a really light layer of paint. So it had dried already. So I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get that off? So I'm using some of my white, which I'm almost out of. And I put the white paint on. And I was just going to use the white paint to kind of lift off what was left. And you can see it's kind of like some bubbly spots on here. Like there's some type of resist. I don't know if there's something on the actual gel press itself because it's new, where it just kind of put those bubbles, or if maybe I didn't shake up that white enough. I don't know, but I like the effect that it made. I was okay with that. So now I'm using some of the paper bag. And y'all, this is the first time I used the paper bag, and I was really kind of pressing that brayer in, so things were sliding around. But the good thing about the cutting board, y'all, look at that. The good thing about the cutting boards is that they don't slide around on the cutting boards. So look at that. Almost reminds me of like snow in a forest. Again, I'll show you all these at the end. I was being lazy. I was trying to make it easy on myself when it comes to editing. And I didn't edit out too much of this. But I didn't think it would be bad. So y'all can let me know if all those blank spots were getting on your nerves. All the spots where I was thinking too much because I didn't edit them out. So I used some more white to try to get up that red paint that was kind of dried up on here. You don't have to worry if your paint is dry. You just put some nice wet paint on it and it'll pull it up. And it did. So again, I'm thinking about what color do I want to use for this. This time I'm going to be adventurous, you all. I'm going to use some gold paint, some metallic gold paint that I would love to just hoard forever. But the paint just is not that expensive, so you don't really have to hoard. And again, a few colors go a long way. So I'm putting some of the gold down, and I'm trying to be sparing with this, not because I want to hoard the gold, which I do, but because I know you don't need a lot of paint. So I'm just trying to get better at not using too much paint on the gel press themselves. And I also use brown. So the colors that I use for this particular layout, so to speak, is the bright yellow, brown, and then a metallic gold color. And I also know, especially with the metallic, that once the paints dry completely, they don't look totally different, but they may take on a more muted hue, which is fine with me as well. So here we go. We're putting down our papers, and I'm actually tearing a paper in half for the 5x7. So next time when I do this, I would probably just have everything, like my papers, prepped out. For the most part, I had everything else prepped out in spaces to put all these wet papers. And y'all look at that. So beautiful. I know that was quick. I know y'all saying, come on, I can't see it. But I'm going to show you all of them in just a few moments. So just hang with me. So now, y'all, me and this paint. Now this is like a titanium white paint. It's Master Touch from Hobby Lobby, and I got it on sale. It's a big tube of white paint. And I got the big tube because I knew I wanted to do more painting, and it was on sale and I wanted to try some paints out. So I got the big tube, but this is like a heavy body paint. So I actually have to squeeze the tube really hard to get it out. I don't know. I have to kind of test things out, but I think I like using the Cheapo Depot paints for this. But as I continue on in the gel pressing process, I can tell you how I feel about the paints overall after, they're dried, and I have to use the papers in the journals or whatever kind of ephemera that I do. So now I'm just taking just some extra white paint just to take everything off because I don't want to do any more, but I don't want to, try to, use a baby wipe and stuff like that. I'm just going to get as much of this up as I can. So if you have some scrap paper, that probably would be better because I just used some white paper. But I can use that again within this whole process. So here are my nice stack of pages that I actually was able to create with this. And I was really, really happy with all the unique designs. And these are all completely dry, so you can see how they look. Now, like I say with everything, these pages don't look like much until they actually go into whatever body of work that you're going to put them in. So they are a fantastic background if you love the artsy type of look, which I do. And so I'm definitely going to be trying to attempt to put these into some journals, maybe do some collaging with them. Again, make journal cards, tags, ATCs. I mean, it's endless to what you could do with these. So if you had a favorite page, I would love to know what that page is. So I am going to go ahead and shove off and thank you all, my Patreons, for being on here. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I appreciate your comments, your love, all of that. Thanks, everybody. Bye.